Welcome again to the program. The economic challenges in Nigeria continue to escalate as the latest report from the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) reveals a significant surge in inflation. The month-on-month increase of 0.87% from October 2023 to November 2023 contributed to a new record high in nearly 2 decades, with the headline inflation rate reaching 28.20% for November, which surpassed the October rate of 27.33%. Now, comparing the figures to November 2022, the year-on-year headline inflation rate witnessed a significant uptick, indicating an increase of 6.73 percentage points from the 21.47% recorded in the same month the previous year. Now, for food inflation, the NBS says its rate also increased to 32.84% on a year-on-year basis, which was 8.72 percentage points higher compared to the 24.13% rate recorded in November 2022. It said the rise was caused by the increase in the average prices of bread and cereals, oil and fat, meat, coffee, tea and cocoa, potatoes, yam and other tubers. The new record high in almost 2 decades emphasizes the urgency of addressing inflationary pressures, requiring careful economic analysis and potential policy adjustments to mitigate the impact of the cost of living crisis on the Nigerian population. For further discussion, economist Akin Ogunshola joins me to delve deeper into the recent surge in the nation's inflation rate. Thank you for your time, Dr. Ogunshola. Now, for the 11th time, the Consumer Price Index has moved from 27.33% the last time to 28.20% now. Is there any probability that this spike might stop soon?
For now, there's no concrete provision made by government to see to the reduction or the downward trend of the interest rates in Nigeria. We all know that on the part of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the CBN is meant to roll out some monetary policies to help stem continuous rise in the interest rate. I said interest rates, in the inflation rate, in the economy. The CBN is meant to hold its MPC meetings quarterly. And we know that for the second time again or so this year, the CBN has postponed its monetary policy meeting, and it means that the next meeting will be till first quarter of January. At these meetings, usually in the time past, the central bank is meant to look into the rates, the monetary policy rate, the consumer price, the other rates, lending rates, interest rates, and other rates, and then either to increase the rates in order to help control inflation rates. But for the fact that Central Bank will not be having its MPC meeting till the first quarter of 2024. It means that nothing will be done on that for now. And also talking about, there are some other economic indices factors that also contribute to the continuous rise in inflation rate of an economy. For example, in Nigeria, we know that the food prices is what is actually driving our inflation high so fast. And also the cost of energy, the cost of fuel and diesel and gas is also a major, factor that is also, contributing to the continuous rise in our inflation. We know that Dangote refinery is maybe going to commence again very soon, but we don't even have any trust again. We've been hearing that news for a couple of times. They will soon start, but we are not seeing anything. But I think the end is in sight, the Port Harcourt refinery, so that we can have diesel produced locally. And also the crude oil that is being sold to Dangote, as we're told, is going to be sold to him in Naira. I don't know if the last 1 million barrel was actually sold to him in Naira. So if we can control the price of diesel, maybe produce more diesel locally instead of importing with dollars, that will also help to reduce inflation. But for now, we've not seen what government is doing practically to help stem the continuous rise in inflation rate.
Let's talk about food inflation, which is mostly felt by citizens. Now, despite many suggestions as to how to reduce it, it keeps increasing. Can anything be done to tame this incessant increase?
Yeah, I think one thing that can be done by government to help reduce food inflation. First of all, let me even take us back memory lane. Sometime in August, the federal government declared state of emergency on, food shortages, food scarcity. One approach that government did then was to open up the storage facilities for corn, for maize, and some other foods, grains especially, to flood the market so that the price can actually come down. But we've seen now that government has not released any grains again into the market. So there's scarcity of grains that is also pushing the price up. Then we are also seeing hoarding of some of this foodstuff by some farmers. Some of them are hoarding in anticipation that the prices will go up, just the way they are hoarding dollars too now. So what government can help to do to reduce the food price is to release some grains, some storage food stuff, by the government, to release some of these grains into the market in order to force the prices down. That's one. Secondly, I think what government has done for the diesel is not enough. Government removed VAT on diesel, but having done that, I think that has not helped because the price of diesel is still high, because it's only diesel they can use to transport this harvested agricultural product from the north, where we have the vast land, to the south. So these are some of the things that government need to do in order to stem continuous rise in food inflation.
In August 2005, the country's inflation rate stood at the same 28.2% as it does now. What were the measures taken back then which can be applied now that the festive season is here?
Oh, yes. What I believe that can be done, just like as I was saying, is that government need to release grains, especially rice. This is the season people look for rice in the market. Government has storage of rice in some silos nationwide. Government should release some of these grains into the market so that when the supply, has flooded the market, it will force the price to actually come down. Also, one other policies that I wasn't comfortable with that the government did was to encourage importation of agricultural products that we're actually producing here in order to compete with the local market. And we know what the exchange rate is saying now. I think the exchange rate is still up to about 900. Just recently that it came down a little. So these are policies that actually goes against bringing down the inflation rate. But if government can release more grains, and possibly if government can ensure availability of diesel and fuel, because this is what will be used, in the transportation of these agricultural products from one place to another in this season. So these are the things that are contributing to the increase in prices of commodities in the market. So government need to work on some of these things to see that the inflation rate actually goes down.
All right, now the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has declared that the rise in exchange rates, or rather, should I say the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, that's Olayemi Cardoso, has declared that the rise in exchange rates and inflation in Nigeria is expected to reduce significantly in 2024. Now, these are just one of the many promises made by the government. What actions should be taken to ensure that this happens as planned?
Oh, well, I believe that the Central Bank governor is relying on the local refining of products, and also the introduction of the CNG buses, alternative energy sources for government. I believe that's what the CBN governor is actually relying on, and that's why he's saying that the inflation will come down, and also the exchange rate will also drop. He's just relying on Dangote refinery coming up, and also the Port Harcourt refinery that will be, that will commence production from January next year. So I believe that's just what he's relying on. But I hope it actually happens. I just hope so, because just like you said, government has promised Nigerians severally, like the one of Port Harcourt Refinery, they said December, but we're already halfway into December and going into the holidays. I don't know if December is still possible, but government is already saying till January again. So we don't know, maybe January they will still shift to February again. But I believe next year, 2024, before the end of the first quarter, I believe government should be able to achieve all these promises to Nigerians.
All right then, Dr. Akin Ogunshola, economist, many thanks for lending your thoughts. We'll take a short break. Money Matters will return shortly. Welcome back. Now, in furtherance of the business ties between Nigeria and Germany, the federal government has signed a memorandum of understanding, that's MOU, with German mining technology company Geoscan to explore accrued mineral resources across the country. Dele Alake, the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, disclosed this information during a press briefing after the Federal Executive Council's weekly meeting at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. He disclosed that the MOU was executed under the government's Solid Minerals Development Plan. Now, according to Alake, Nigeria's mineral resources are conservatively estimated at $700 billion underground, constituting about 0.02% of global mining. The SMDF has revealed Nigeria's mining sector boasts 44 different types of commercially viable minerals worth an estimated $700 billion. He added that the MOU aims to promote the development of Nigeria's solid mineral exploration, effective utilization, and responsible allocation of the generated income into the Nigerian government's treasury. Now, what measures should be taken to ensure this agreement benefits both countries? Akinade Olatunji, President, Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society, is here to tell us. Glad to have you join me on the program, Mr. Olatunji. Now, sadly, the mining sector, the mining of minerals in Nigeria accounts for only 0.3% of its gross domestic product, due to the influence of its vast oil resources. Now, is this MOU going to be a game changer in reviving the country's mining sector?
First, let me make some clarification. The MOU is not between Nigeria and the German government.
Okay.
It is between Nigeria and a German company. And the company executive came along with the German chancellor when he came to visit the president.
Okay.
That was when the MOU was signed. The company is said to own the proprietary rights to a scanning method which makes exploration faster and cheaper than the conventional method. And generally speaking, anything that is going to make exploration faster and cheaper will of course be a game changer in the industry, because most of the bulk of the money often that goes into mineral development has to go into exploration. And this is a phase where so many uncertainties are attached. So the lesser the uncertainty, the quicker you can define the uncertainty, the faster you can resolve the uncertainty, the better for the exploration project. And that will of course be a true game changer indeed.
So, in your opinion, what would you say are the key issues stalling Nigeria's mining sector's growth?
For those of us in the solid mineral sector, anything that is going to bring development is welcome. Any MOU signed with anybody, any company, any government that will promote activities in the solid mineral sector is welcomed, and it should be a positive thing. It shows that the solid mineral sector in Nigeria is beginning to attract people's attention globally, And when global players are beginning to come into your country to look at what you are doing, the funds follows them. And when the funds follows them, it can only mean investment. So the more investment we're able to invite into the sector through this kind of MOU, the better for the sector. Let me add, government cannot fund mineral exploration or mineral development on its own. We don't have the resources. Even government of the world that have the resources, they don't fund it with government resources. What they do is to create the enabling environment where private sector can flow in, and where private initiatives can actually drive the processes of exploration and exploitation. So for us in the geosciences and mining profession, whatever we attract attention to the sector in the right way is welcome. Whatever we bring a German company to be interested in working with the Nigerian government in fast-tracking exploration activity, of course, is welcomed. And I'm sure that news will have reverberated globally, and many, many investors, potential investors, will be looking towards what comes out of the MOU, because it's not about the German company alone. The German chancellor, as I said, was also in the country when that MOU was signed. And of course, we all know that Germans are serious-minded people. They don't just go into signing MOU. They don't mean what they want to do. So for us, it's a positive development, and we hope the details of the MOU will become much more available for everybody to know very soon. But as I said, this is good. Whatever will bring attention to the sector, whatever will bring global attention to the sector, is a welcome development.
Right. So far, the federal government has assured it will wage war against illegal miners in Nigeria. In your opinion, how best can this be achieved?
Okay, there are electoral issues. The first actually has to do with the lack of adequate resources. The solid mineral sector is capital intensive, and as I mentioned earlier, this is not something the government can afford to shoulder. Government that is looking for revenue to pay salary and to meet other needs cannot afford to spend the kind of money that needs to be spent on exploration activities. We don't have the fund. So that is the first major problem, funding. Most of the private operators are barely surviving because they have to depend on their own effort in sourcing for funds to drive their activities. And one of the biggest success story we have, which is the Tor Exploration Project, the Segilola Gold Project in Ilesha, took a lot of time before they were able to raise the necessary finance to do what they are doing now. So mining sector is capital intensive, and the best way to do it is to get private equity and private financing for it. So that's number one. The key thing is issue of funding. Then number two is the issue of sufficient geoscientific data. You see, data costs money. Exploration data costs a lot of money. You are going to have to spend so much looking for something you may not necessarily get. As I mentioned earlier, the most difficult aspect of looking for mineral resources is to explore for it. And when you want to explore, you are looking at an operation that will last you several years, depending on the kind of mineral you are interested in. You will be spending money and you are not getting anything in return. And it is when you have done this due diligence, which we call exploration activities, that you're able to prove that, okay, you have sufficient deposit in an area which you can win at a profitable margin. So you can imagine it's not a business of bringing in 10 container load of goods, taking it to Alaba market and selling and making your profit in less than a month. That is not the way the mining sector works. The mining sector is structured, and it is something that if you don't do it the way it is done, you will not get the appropriate return from it. So that we need enough geoscientific data. And as I said, government have done its best in stimulating this aspect, but government still have to do more by empowering the appropriate agency, which is the Nigeria Geological Survey Agency, to keep sending people into the different fields to gather geoscientific information, which will now arouse the interest of the big players globally that will now come and move it to the next level. So we need more geoscientific data, and geoscientific data costs money. And of course, unlike the kind of money you spend on constructing roads or constructing structures that everybody will be able to see, when you want to spend money on geoscientific data, except for those who are in the field, who knows the value, most of our decision makers will believe you are wasting money because they are not things that you physically touch. They are data data sets that you gather to make informed decision. And we don't like spending money on gathering data here in this part of the world. And that's why we have not developed the way we should develop. So we need sufficient geoscientific data, more and more geoscientific data needed to drive that sector. Then number 3, we also need to begin to put our foot down on adding value to the minerals we have. There are a lot of minerals that are being taken out of the country currently raw. We have advocated all along as professionals that should stop. Government needs to be intentional and deliberate about this. And I'm happy that both the president and even the minister in the last few months have emphasized this fact that henceforth Nigerian minerals will not be taken out unprocessed any longer. When you take a mineral out of the country, what you're actually doing, you're not taking a single mineral out, you're taking a composite mineral. People will tell you it's just lithium. No, there are associated minerals to that lithium. People will tell you it's just rock. No, there may be 2-3 minerals in that rock. So when you take it out of the country for processing in other countries, you are enriching those countries and you are making yourself poorer just because you don't want to delay gratification. You take a little chunk of the money you have. So we also need to be deliberate in insisting that whatever mineral that is won in Nigeria, exploited in Nigeria, should be processed in Nigeria. Let's add value to our minerals before we start selling them out. And of course, government have to do this and be deliberate about it. So if we are able to provide funding, if we're able to provide sufficient geoscientific data, and we're able to insist on adding value to our mineral sector, then of course that sector will indeed give us the due value that we deserve.
Going forward after the signing of this MOU, what elements do you think might pose as challenges in the successful execution, and what modalities do you think should be considered for the success of the agreement?
Oh, that is, I think I'm the wrong person you're asking that question. That question should be directed to government functionaries. They are the ones that signed the MOU, and they will know what needs to be done to allow the MOU to succeed. But just as an outsider and as a professional, what we are lacking in this country is consistency, and we lack consistency in policy execution. Now, this MOU have been signed. The minister is there now. The government is there. This is not something you can achieve in 1 year. If the minister changes portfolio next year, how are we sure that the next minister will follow suit in the same process? So most often is the lack of the political will on the part of government that makes most of our memorandum of understanding to fail, and also maybe most of our initiatives to fail. So I think we must be consistent in our policy pursuit. Yes, of course, there is no policy that is foolproof, that is perfect. We tweak it and make it better rather than throwing it out outrightly and starting all over. You see, the sector does not look favorable to those who are not consistent in policy. For instance, you say today that you are signing an MOU with a company that's going to help you in exploration, and the company brings in facilities, bringing materials, bringing the investment, and maybe somebody else become minister in 6 months down the road, 1 year down the road, 2 years down the road, where these guys are yet to even finish what they have signed to do for you. And somebody said, no, I'm not more interested in that. I want to go another route. People see you as not being serious. And that policy somersault had been the bane of our development in terms of area development and, of course, even the mineral sector. So we must be consistent. We have signed this MOU. All hands must be on deck. The government must make it work. The technocrats in the ministry must make it work. Every brick wall that is going to prevent this from working should be removed.
Well then, Akinade Olatunji, President, Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society. Thank you, sir, for your time. And that's all on this episode of the program. Thank you for watching. See you again next time. Bye for now.